Hi everyone, welcome back to a new video. Today we're doing another recovery story and I'm sitting down with Holden, one of my clients, and he has a really beautiful recovery story to share with you all today. So welcome Holden, I'm glad to do this interview with you today.
Thank you.
How are you feeling today?
Much better.
Yeah.
Much better. I've regained like my confidence. I feel like I can get back to my life. Like I've started focusing on school again, which is nice, which is something I lost in DPDR. Can focus on my relationships and everything. Um, so yeah, much better.
Life is
So
good.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
All right. So why don't you start off with just kind of sharing the audience and the people watching your background story with DPDR, kind of how you got it, how long you struggled, and yeah, just kind of
Yeah.
taking us through your story a little bit.
Okay. Um, yeah, so like growing up, I was always like super anxious. I remember like quitting sports because I was so anxious. I always felt like everyone was judging me. Like I had very low self-esteem. And I never knew where it came from. Like I wasn't ever like bullied or anything. It was almost just like a weird thought pattern I had like kind of got stuck in, kind of like comparing myself to people. And I remember at 15, I really started like looking at myself and not liking myself. So like I would go to the gym at like 15, which is crazy stuff I shouldn't be worrying about at 15. Um, because I just wanted to almost fit in with everyone else. I wanted to be just like everyone else. And during this period of time, like COVID was going on, so I remember being locked in my house basically for like 2 years basically. And I remember even during like my Zoom calls, I would get be like for class, I would be super anxious, even over the phone. Like these people weren't even like in front of me, and I'd be nervous. So I
Mm.
knew there was an issue. Like at the time, I knew I had like some sort of social anxiety. But I never did anything to fix it at all. I kind of just developed ways to cope with it and kind of bury it so it wasn't as bad. And some of that was going to the gym.
Yeah.
Um, but later, when my DPDR really started, was my parents had just got divorced, so there was the stress with that. I got a new job, and then we had finally gone back to school for after like the Zoom call days were over, and I was always super anxious. So I remember one night after work, I decided, hey, I'd go home and chill out if I and decided to smoke. I smoked marijuana, and it was like a trip that I had never experienced a trip like this before. It was very panicky. And I instantly did not want to be high anymore. I wanted to be fully conscious, and I wanted to be out of it. Um, so I
Which,
decided I
which is the worst thought to have when you're high is that you don't want to
yeah,
be anymore.
it made it so much worse.
Yeah.
Everything was escalating. It was like the walls were closing in. Um, so I decided that if I go to bed, then maybe it'd go away. But then I woke up the next morning and I still felt weird, disconnected. It was like instantly, like I felt like all my senses were gone. Like my perception of time, I remember, was really difficult. Like the day went by super fast that day. And I just couldn't make out like relatives. I remember like I couldn't tell if they were like I couldn't make any connections to them. It's almost like all my memory of them had disappeared.
Mm.
I'd been completely emotionally numb at this point. Um, so I decided I'd just keep going to the gym, going to work, maybe it go away. Um, but it didn't. So I decided to get on the forums and start researching, which is where I think most of my issues came from.
Yeah.
You see the stories of people stuck in it for 20 years, 15 years. And as someone already in a panicky state, that terrified me. So I kind of just got stuck in that state. There's just like a loop of me researching, getting more scared, and then getting more numb, like more detached from everything. Um, yeah.
And how long did this go about, this loop of kind of being stuck in the researching and desperation, would you say?
I would say it was probably 6 months,
Mm.
6 months of just searching. Um, like I and yeah, it was 6 months of not doing anything to get better. It was just 6 months of panic, just researching, trying to run away from it still. Um, but it wasn't until that 6 months then that I decided like, okay, I need to do a program. I need to start kind of getting to the core of these issues. And I remember the whole time me searching the symptoms online. Like, what are these symptoms? What's the brain fog? The brain fog was huge for me. I remember like I couldn't. I just wanted to be in control. I wanted to have my thoughts. I felt like I felt stupid. Like I couldn't think properly.
Mm.
And I remember in tests, like my memory when we would take tests were so bad in school. Like I was failing my quizzes and my exams. I just wanted to be normal again. Um, but it didn't take until 6 months to where I started to address that.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think my version of addressing that was searching the symptoms the whole time, just making the symptoms themselves go away.
Yeah.
Um, and then that's when I found your program and I started like really doing some of the meditations and everything. Um, and that's where I started to see most of my progress. When I did most of like the breathing exercises, the meditation.
So what do you
Okay.
think um was the shift that you started to make internally in regards to your DPDR and the whole process of dealing with it and with the anxiety that started alleviating the symptoms for you? Because you said that I mean, you could say that researching in a way is also wanting to get rid of it and working on it, but it's probably coming from a different place than when you started feeling better. So, what was internally the shift that you felt you started making, that started helping you get better?
The turning point was definitely when I started to like challenge my thoughts. Because this whole time I was just believing everything my like at this point my animal brain that had totally gone like totally cut off like my logical brain.
Yeah.
Um at this point like I totally believed everything, and when I started to challenge these thoughts and know that this is just a scared brain, then that's really when I started to see the symptoms go away. Um, it was crazy because it happened in a few weeks. It wasn't a long process at all.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
One of the things that I mean, like we talked about in sessions after you've gone through the course and you reached out, was that you figured out, like you were just saying in the beginning, that the confidence and the like self-confidence, social confidence, all of that was really partly the core of you struggling with DPDR. Did you like, is that what you mean, that you started becoming aware of questioning the thoughts at the core of your lack of self-confidence and kind of turning that around? Or what were some of the thoughts that you started questioning that started to actually make you see reality in a different way, to make you feel more safe?
Yeah. I think it's partially both. Because shortly after that, like after the 6 months, I had been like 6 months of recovering. So like at this point, a year.
Mhm.
Um, that's when I had a brief period. It was like 3 month period of I totally feel back to normal. Like I feel like my normal self. I've been looking for that the whole time. I was super happy. And then I had a stressful situation come up and I had totally gotten back into DPDR, like that loop of DPDR. Um, but I think when I was questioning to get to that point of recovery, I was questioning the symptoms. So I was questioning like, okay, maybe these symptoms are here to protect me. Like this is my brain. Like my brain's actually working. It thinks I'm dying or thinks I'm in some crazy situation that it's cutting myself off from everything. Um, but since I hadn't yet challenged the thoughts like within my core, like my core issues or like core self-esteem problems. I think that's why after that brief months, I reverted back to that loop
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
I hadn't recovered from, well, I hadn't healed my core at all.
You did, okay, so what you did recover from. So it's almost like sometimes I like to call the healing process of DPDR kind of like like unraveling the healing layers, like almost like peeling
Mhm.
an onion and really getting to the core. And what
Yeah,
I'm hearing then for you, it felt like it happened in two waves. The first wave was overcoming the fear of the DPDR itself and really stopping um, that fight or flight response by changing the thoughts and beliefs you had about the DPDR, going into acceptance, meditation, breathing exercises, all that. And then you start recovering. But then I'm assuming it was a social situation, if I'm uh,
yeah,
mistaken, that kind of re-triggered it again. But now it was more to the core of lack of self-confidence. And then you had
yeah,
to move through that wave and heal those
yeah.
patterns and kind of come out at the other end of that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And I remember when I got stuck back into that loop after I remember like after I got stuck in that loop, it was I like all my previous tools that I'd used to get past the symptoms were like out the window at this point. Like I totally reverted back to that scared cycle. Um so but this time now I had the idea that this is actually stemming from an issue with like my inner child or other problems I had through my childhood. Um, and when I started doing I think it was a inner child meditations, kind of focusing on that, that's when I really saw not only progress for my symptoms, but progress that I was looking for my whole entire life, even before DPDR. I remember doing the first inner child meditation and I broke down. It was like I felt that little me because I could picture him so vividly. Like I knew his age, I knew what he's wearing and everything. Um, it was something I needed so bad. Um, like I felt so rejuvenated, and it was something that my body was looking for forever.
Yeah.
Um, and that really propelled me to get like my confidence back and kind of push towards something I would have never thought I would have done before DPDR. So
That's amazing. I
yeah,
always love how people share that the inner child work really helps them because
yeah,
it's one of the most loving, compassionate ways to heal from anything is really connecting to the older parts of you that were hurt and why they started creating these protection mechanisms like anxiety and DPDR and all of that. So, and it's really like something that you take with you throughout your life is learning to change the relationship with these emotions and stopping to be so scared of them and seeing them like protectors of the hurt little child within. And it's beautiful to hear that that work really impacted you.
yeah, yeah. I think that I like another turning point for me was kind of when I realized that is a blessing in disguise. Like this is my brain just telling me like because through the past I had totally ignored it, going to the gym, totally kind of like played video games, trying to isolate myself from everyone. Um, that whole time I hadn't paid attention to my brain at all. So it took to this point for it to tell me almost like, hey, you need to really work on some of these issues. Like your thinking patterns are so backwards. Um, and when I started thinking like that, that's kind of when I started to recover.
Amazing.
So,
So
yeah.
if you could picture right now that there's an audience sitting in front of you with people struggling with exactly what you struggled with, what would be some of the like tips you'd give them, or what would
Mm.
be some of your advice to the people that are struggling with what you were struggling with for the last, or like I guess for 2 years it was almost
Yeah.
into.
Yep. 2 years. I would say um, that there's like a difference between running away and accepting. Um, I think it's very easy to like get that confused. Like that's certainly what happened to me. Um, my version of accepting at the time was kind of just making myself busy, but I wasn't accepting. I was still running away. Like you truly do have to sit with your thoughts and let them be there. And almost when you feel the symptoms of the DPDR, you feel the just angst that comes with it. You just have to smile at it and let it go away because it always goes away. It might come to you for 2 hours, but then after that your body relaxes and then you're fine. You're
Mhm,
fine.
mhm,
um in the moment it's very easy to forget about that.
mhm,
um Another thing is challenging your thoughts for sure. Like realize that your brain is giving you information on only what it perceives, and that's not what you perceive. Because you're conscious, like consciously you understand that you're not in danger, but your brain doesn't think that. So you kind of just have to challenge uh, all the everything it's giving you.
mhm, mhm.
um,
Yeah, not just go along with everything you're thinking.
yeah.
Great. Like, I guess being mindful, becoming mindful, and separating yourself from your thoughts. Mhm.
Yeah, I remember, I think it was at the end of our first Zoom meeting. I said, I asked you something. It was like, I asked you, so what should I be doing every day? Like, should I have like a like itinerary? And that is totally like the back. You should not think about it at like that at all. That
Mhm,
is what definitely held me,
mhm.
um, because it wasn't necessarily the all the meditating, all of the uh, breathing exercises. It was more just the acceptance in general, like just letting it be there.
Yeah.
Um, that's what really helped.
It's
Uh,
interesting. Like I think what I remember from that is almost like you were sitting there with like I'm assuming like a notebook ready to write everything down and kind of like Robin, tell me what I do from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And it's funny because what you say is true. I think tools are amazing to get you to a place of changing your relationship with your anxiety and with your DPDR through certain meditation practices, through inner child work, through all of that. Um, but if you are doing all of that as a distraction from it and as a way of trying to run away from it or fix it as quickly as possible, you're still acting from a place of fear, and that might actually hold you back. And Holden and I, we saw each other last week for another session. It was been a few months since we talked, um, and I could clearly see the difference in your own attitude towards that, how you really like could laugh with that almost and kind of recognize that desperation, which is a phase that every single person really goes through and you can't really skip. um, but yeah, what would you say is like, if you look at the person that you are today and how you feel now, kind of coming out of all of this, is the biggest transformation that you went under? And how do you feel, I guess, about yourself and about life today?
so like totally, I feel totally. I feel like at this point I've totally pushed beyond anything I would have thought 2 years ago. Um, I would not have seen myself in the job I'm in, or some of the social situations I'm in. I wouldn't have seen myself going to college. There's a lot of negative beliefs I had, and that's just totally gone now. Um, and unfortunately, it took going through DPDR to realize um, that there was truly some things wrong. But I like confidence has also totally gone up. Um, I don't fear judgment as much from anyone, which is also like that is literally the best feeling where you know you are not getting stared at, or that it does not matter. Because that was always a huge issue for me. Um, and life just feels so much slower. Like there is no tension. There is everything is set up. Like everything is going to work out for me.
There's no like pressure to be anywhere or be anyone. You can just be who you are, and that's what feels slow.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah, like, you start to enjoy more, like, the smaller moments, like, even just hanging out with your friends or, going out to dinners or stuff like that. Like, that stuff is so much more important now. Um, and I can't explain it, but everything just slows down. It's just there's no outside pressure. Like, you understand that you are not in danger anymore. Um,
Yeah.
and that's when you really start building connections with people,
Mm.
um,
Mm.
because you're no longer afraid.
Yeah. And also you're more confident kind of showing the real you because you don't feel like pretending to be someone that you're not anymore. So you're automatically going to attract a lot more authentic connections to people.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I remember when I had first had that 3 months of, like, recovery and I felt back to normal, I totally changed who it wasn't just back to normal, I genuinely felt, more confident, and I was like, who is this person? This is not me, this is, like, a whole new character," and
Mhm.
the whole time, that was actually me. It was just covered up by fear,
Yeah.
um, and it took the DPDR to to recognize that,
Yeah. Yeah.
so.
Would you have gone through it without the DPDR, the change? Do you think you would have really worked on your confidence at some point if you weren't forced
Mm.
to it in a way?
That's you know, I think it would have taken a lot longer to get to that point. You
Mhm.
know, I see other people that are kinda stuck in the thinking patterns I was in, and kinda see that, like, have low self-esteem, or, like, see other people and are almost jealous. I still feel like I would be stuck in that because I wouldn't have experienced, um, the the hell that comes with DPD. Like, I wouldn't have experienced genuine rock bottom.
Mhm.
Um, there's nothing scarier that you will experience than that. When I reached rock bottom, I realized that, okay, there really is some issues here. I can't just keep shoving this under the rug. Like, I have to fix this. Um, and I think if I hadn't experienced DPDR, I would still have all of that. I would still think how I do,
Yeah.
how I used to.
Was there
Yeah.
anything else that you felt you really wanted to share today or something that you thought of sharing?
Yeah, I would just say that the recovery, I think in the very beginning when you like develop DPDR, um, the scariest thing is the timeline. Like for me at least, like the time, like, wow, I know I've seen this on the forums. People have experienced this for 5 years. I know the rest of my the next 5 years are going to be hell for me. Um, I think what people have to realize, and myself included, that recovery happens within weeks, within months, if you're doing the right thing. Um, it's your recovery is definitely all over the place. It is not a linear recovery at all. It is there will be ups and downs, and that was a serious source of most of the issues for me. Was genuinely the forums,
Yeah.
which is such a shame. But
It can be a
yeah,
blessing and a curse, but when it comes to the obsession that you can have with DPDR, sometimes it's more of a curse than a blessing, I guess. But yeah.
yeah, it's almost like OCD. You start to kind of or like health anxiety, like you start to really get obsessed with diving deeper into it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Any last kind of word or quote or something that has helped you a lot that you'd like to kind of finish off on a finishing thought?
Um, shoot, I do have one. I don't. I write them down somewhere. Like, hold up, because I do have a
All
quote
right.
that did help me a lot.
You could also share it in a comment, and I could pin the comment.
Yeah, yeah,
All right.
yeah. You know what? That works. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
much for coming on today and
Yeah.
sharing your story. It was super insightful. I think a lot of people are gonna really get a lot from it. Very
Yeah.
relatable story, I think, for
Yeah. Yeah. I hope some of the small details that people like the more the specific details in my story will help someone kind of apply their own
yeah,
recovery too. So
absolutely. Yeah, that's the
yeah.
helpful thing about these stories is everyone's journey just a little bit
Yeah.
different. The general lines of it are sometimes the same, so people can relate to, like, I have so many messages from people saying I relate to this person or I relate to that person.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
really that this is going to be helpful for someone, or if not many people watching
I
this.
hope so. I really do hope so because that I remember watching the first one, and that one really helped me a lot.
Mm,
Just hearing. It was the first time I heard someone recovered, really,
yeah,
other
yeah,
than yourself. It was crazy.
yeah. Well,
So
thank you so much for coming today.
yeah,
If
yeah,
people have questions for you, can they ask it in the comment section?
for sure. Yep, yep. I will totally answer any questions.
All right, perfect. Thank you. All right,
Yep.
have a beautiful day, and thank you everyone for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.